I'm Dana Perino along with Judge Janine Pirro. She's looking up now. Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. A massive and potentially catastrophic Category 4 hurricane. It's barreling directly towards the East Coast. Florence is flexing her muscles and rapidly gaining strength over the Atlantic Ocean before its anticipated landfall later this week. Fox News meteorologist Adam Klotz is tracking the monster storm. It's gotten bigger since I even talked to you at 2 o'clock, Adam.
Dana, it has. We just got a new update. Winds were at 130 miles an hour, now up to 140 miles an hour. This storm continues to strengthen, and it's going to have plenty of time to do so. Running over warm water, still a long ways away from the coast. You're looking, there's Bermuda just to the north. So south of Bermuda currently, this is the path it's going to take, and as it moves along this path, it will continue to strengthen. We're eventually going to be running up to maybe 150 mile an hour winds, getting up close to there anyways. This is now Thursday morning, and you are looking at perhaps a landfall as this gets closer to the Carolina coast there, getting Thursday night into early Friday morning. That's the time frame we're looking with this, but it stays strong the entire way, likely making landfall as a Category 4 storm. That's what our current model suggests. That puts those winds anywhere from 130 to 156 miles an hour. This is going to be a big wind event for folks right along the coast, as well as a rain event. Now, typically a storm that's sitting where this storm is sitting would be turning off to the north, possibly missing land entirely. Because of a high pressure system, it's being forced down along the Carolina coast, and pretty much all of our models at this point are in agreement with this. These are all of our tropical models, and you see them all run up right along the coast, stretching from an area perhaps from Myrtle Beach up towards the Outer Banks in North Carolina. That's kind of the cone of indecision at this point. But what we aren't as clear at is what happens once this storm gets there. I continue with the models, and they all kind of disagree a little bit here. Some take it inland. Others let it spin just off the coast a little bit. If it spins off the coast, we could be seeing a lot of rain, Dana. These are just some couple forecast models, but spots suggesting maybe up over 2 feet of rain, widespread getting up to a foot of rain. So it's going to be a wind event, that's for sure. It's going to be storm surge, and we may be dealing with a lot of flooding also.
All right. People should listen to their local authorities for sure. There's already mandatory evacuations. Adam, thank you. And another top story we're following. President Obama back on the campaign trail and breaking recent precedent by continuing to directly attack his successor. Obama describing the midterm elections as a pivotal moment for the country.
Unfortunately, it's been a spiral that we've been on for the last couple of years. This is a consequential moment in our history. And the fact is that if we don't step up, things can get worse. In 2 months, we have a chance to restore some sanity in our politics.
The former president also trying to take some credit for the current booming economy.
When you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started, suddenly Republicans are saying it's a miracle. I have to kind of remind them, actually, those job numbers are the same as they were in 2015, in 2016, and anyway.
Obama then directing his criticism at the entire Republican Party.
The politics of division and resentment and paranoia has unfortunately found a home in the Republican Party. Embraced wild conspiracy theories like those surrounding Benghazi or my birth certificate.
All right, so let me go to you, Jesse. President Trump does well when he has someone to fight against, and there's not a singular Democratic leader, but President Obama decided to get back on the trail, so now he has somebody to punch back against.
It's a big punching bag. There's a lot of room for opportunity. Sorry about that, Juan. I love him taking credit for the Trump economy. There's a great analogy going around the internet, I think, today. You know the guy that tries to take off a top from a jar, and he's working it hard, and he can't say, "Can you try this?" So then the person comes over and pops it off, and he goes, "I loosened it up for you." Well, that's President Obama. I'm not going to bore you with the statistics, but Kevin Hassett, chief economic advisor, came out and did a presentation today, and every chart he held up looked like this. Obama going down, Trump presidency, boom, it skyrockets, okay? And I have a lot more charts to bore you with, Juan, and I'm not going to do that because I know you're allergic to the facts. So, one statistic really bears noting here, never hit 3% growth. Trump's going to hit 3% growth today. I don't like it when President Obama gets on his high horse and tries to claim the moral high ground, because then he turns around and has his people wiretap you and call you a racist. He says we have to restore sanity to our politics. I think insanity is Maxine Waters, socialism, and abolishing ICE. And if you look back and say, you know, was this presidency a good presidency? If it was so good, we would have had Hillary. She would have been the third Obama term, but no, it wasn't good, and that's why you have President Trump.
All right, well, you're looking at Juan. Should I give you a chance to respond? Let me just mention that the California races that President Obama went to campaign for have shown that they're pretty close. So if you're being strategic on the Democratic side, you would want to send him there to see if you can pull them over the top. Because if the Democrats, if they plan to take back the House majority, they got to go up through California and New Jersey.
Right, and that's where you're going to see Obama. And by the way, in those districts, it's often the case that Hillary Clinton won handily. So that you have a Republican in a district that was won by the Democrat last time. But in response to what Jesse's talking about, I just find this kind of intriguing. It's almost silly to me. Obviously, President Obama was dealing with a terrible economy when he took office, the greatest downturn that we had seen since the Great Depression in the U.S., and then you get President Obama leading us steadily up, and lots of people.
Weakest recovery since the Great Depression.
If you allow me to finish, I was going to make your point for you that the critics say that it was slow. But the fact is that if you look at the reality is it took us to a new height, and President Trump, to his credit, hey, the economy has continued to grow. But when you get into situations like the one he tweeted about this morning, that he's saying, oh, this is the greatest economy in 100 years. Which prompted people left and right, Jesse, apparently not you, but most people, even honest people on the right, said, hey, you're wrong, Mr.
President.
President.
The GDP is higher than the unemployment
rate. And that's
rate.
wrong.
Yeah. When was the last time that happened?
That's wrong. But
2006, the Bush years.
You know, it's
unbelievable.
This is unbelievable.
That's since
maybe it's just a typo. Maybe he meant 10 and not 100.
Maybe he meant 10, but I'm just saying, you look at this, 20% of the time for the last 70 years, and he's wrong. But does he say it? No, he leaves the tweet up there. How about jobs? You know, you look at it and you say, what about this? 4 times under Obama, GDP 4.6% twice, 5.2%.
Those were quarters, not the whole year.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're talking about.
We're talking about
quarters.
Couldn't sustain it. What's your bottom line?
My bottom line is, I think, look, it seems to me it's obvious that Obama deserves a great deal of credit for where we are today. It's not a matter of opening the jar, Jesse. The jar was open.
What was in the jar? Was the jar empty?
I want to tell you why Obama deserves credit. You want to know why he deserves credit?
You tell me.
Because things were so bad. The economy was so bad. He couldn't figure out whether to destroy ISIS, dismantle, or contain them. None of which he did, by the way.
Oh, no.
If the economy, the reason we have Donald Trump is because everyone said we're fed up with his political correctness. We're fed up with a military that has its hands tied behind its back. And so what does Obama want to do? Take us back to more unemployment for African Americans, more unemployment for Hispanics, more with a military now. And by the way, with tax reform, tax cuts, you want less money in your paycheck? The reason we have the outsider president is because Obama was so out of control in what he did.
Let me give then Greg the floor to take it around whatever you want.
Well, I don't know. I get why he wants credit. He's like the person you dated before you got married, and now he claims credit for making you marriage material.
Making you better.
Like, yeah, he softened up the economy so Trump could handle it. First of all, let's talk about the wild conspiracy theories of Benghazi. It wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was an abomination. It was the simplest way to explain Benghazi is that after a planned terror attack, they went after the filmmaker because they were incapable of saying radical Islam. That's the abomination. It's not a conspiracy. It was a moral failure on the part of an administration who couldn't utter the words that reflected true evil, which was radical Islam. Right now, Trump is like the world's largest planet, and he keeps sucking people into their orbit and making them smaller. So right now, Obama's just another asteroid in Trump's galaxy. It's just another person that is fighting him, and it makes them look It just makes him look much smaller. And I love how the media just keeps saying Obama's speeches are fiery. If that's fiery, a soggy sparkler is a 3-alarm fire because you don't get anything new, surprising, or unpredictable. He said the voters should step up. Remember, every time they step up, what happens? They threw out nearly 100 Congress and Senate, Democrat congressmen and senators combined, about 90 or so, right? That's what they did when they stepped up. And also when they stepped up, they voted for Trump.
That's right.
We're going to have more and more. Maxine Waters stepping on Democrats' midterm messaging while vowing to get President Trump. See it next.
I'm dropping the weight. I got a one-way ticket towards those better days.
That's not polka music, Godfellow.
No, it's not.
That's it right there. Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters at it again, renewing her call to impeach President Trump. Only now she says it's keeping her up at night.
I wake up in the middle of the night and all I can think about is I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I'm in this fight and I'm not going to move. And as you know, there's a difference in how some of our leadership talk about how we should handle all of this. They say, Maxine, please don't say impeachment anymore. And when they say that, I say impeachment, 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 impeachment.
You may remember Waters back in June urging supporters to harass Trump officials out in public. She's now defending those remarks in a way only Maxine Waters can.
I did not threaten his constituents, his supporters. I do that all the time, but I didn't do it that time. And but what bothered me so much was they tried to frame that as violence. That's not violence. As a matter of fact, I said the poster child for violence is the President of the United States.
Amen.
Okay. Juan, you were laughing about that. What was so funny?
Well, when I hear Maxine Waters talk like this, I think, oh, gee, I wonder who started the bullying, the incivility, the harshness. And she's right. I mean, he's the one that said, I remember the good old days when they would knock a protester out, or I'll pay your legal bills after you slug a guy.
You mean the DNC paid protesters
Oh,
to fight at
please.
Trump
Here
rallies?
we go. I'm just saying, you never want to talk about Trump, do you? Everything, it's the
What do you mean?
It's
Did you
the
watch
elite
the
Hollywood. It's, you just don't like to talk about Trump and his excesses.
Okay,
Hey,
so
what has Maxine Waters done that she's so great that she can run around and say, you know what, I can threaten his followers, he's got to be impeached. Now she says Vice President Pence needs to be impeached. Who is this woman? Is she a comedian?
Apparently, she's smart. Unlike some who call her
You mean
low
low
intelligence.
IQ,
Yeah,
Maxine.
unlike some people who want to call her that, I think obviously she is having an impact. Because even Nancy Pelosi and others, I know that you don't like Nancy, but Nancy Pelosi said, don't do it. As she said, but pretty funny.
there's a reason
don't
why.
say impeach, don't, and she is having success doing her own
Well,
thing.
that's the game, though, because the game I think Pelosi is running is you don't want to say impeachment until we win back the House. Then we're
you
supposed
say
to impeach.
Right. So when Maxine Waters says she wakes up in the middle of the night and she's like, I'm going to get him. I think if I ever wake up in the middle of the night, it's like, Jasper, would you please move over? Like, I do not wake up in the middle of the night thinking I'm going to go after any politician ever. It's never happened in my life. What Pelosi is saying is, don't say it out loud. Because what happened to Bill Clinton when he was president, when the Republicans caved to the base, really, and said, okay, we are going to start impeachment hearings before the midterms. Well, guess what? Democrats united right behind, all of them got behind Bill Clinton. His popularity went up. He was able to succeed, and he walked out of the White House in much better shape than if they had just held their fire.
Yeah, Maxine's firing up the Republicans.
Well, it's funny. I also scream impeachment in the middle of the night because it's my safe word. You have to understand that, okay, 10 years ago, her opinions would be seen as extreme or radical, but now she's the mainstream of the Democratic Party. And the reason is that Trump has been good for her and her constituents. First, her constituents are enjoying record low unemployment and a booming economy, and they're not dying in foreign wars. That's pretty good. The second, but also is her profile has never been higher.
Exactly.
Now when she speaks, people listen. He's good for business. her business as well, she fires up both bases. She fires up her base and their bases. That's why I think they should go head to head. Don't unseat him. Try to beat him. Run for president.
Yeah, but
Maxine should run.
But the point that you make is so good, and that is, who ever heard of this woman until she started yelling, impeach, impeach, impeach 45? Honestly, had you heard of her?
Oh, yeah, I've known Maxine forever because she's very entertaining.
How do you know her?
Oh, how do I know her?
She's a leading
congresswoman.
voice.
She's a leading voice of what? Impeach?
No,
What is
no,
her
no.
message other than go after people, get in their face, make a crowd? Who talks like that?
Donald Trump. Go, Gregory, go.
I mean,
Gregory, go.
that's why I'm saying she should run. This is the mirror image of lock her up, right?
Are we
Lock
saying
her up.
Maxine and Donald Trump are
Right,
from the same
but lock her up, she committed crimes. I mean, there's no question about that. Had they had a real grand jury, then that would have been something that would have happened.
Yeah,
But they didn't.
Juan, is winning a high crime and misdemeanor? Last time I checked, winning's not grounds for impeachment.
No, not unless you cheat and bully and lie.
But that's still, you can still,
I think it was
by the
Hillary
way, you
that
can still
cheated,
lie.
and
and
she
cheat.
still lost. All right, listen,
Okay.
Maxine is at it again, and it's okay because she has denied now that she wants to cause violence to people, but if you read the quote, create a crowd, push back, tell them they're not welcome.
That's right.
But
To
here's
me, that's going to cause
the
some
great thing
violence.
about her is she is guaranteed at least one she's guaranteed us one segment a week. She will do something and we get one
It used to
segment.
be Hillary.
Yeah, it used to be Hillary.
Yeah, you're right. It
All
used
right,
to be.
keep talking, Maxine. We love you. President Trump lashes out against Bob Woodward's work of fiction, as he says, vowing to write the real book to set the record straight. Up next.
You want to know who's really ticked off about that op-ed by an anonymous but very important Trump official? This guy.
I wouldn't have used it.
Too vague?
Well, too vague and does not meet the standards of trying to describe specific incidents. Specific incidents are the building blocks of journalism.
Now, why would Bob say that? That's an insider's view. He knows that the Times ran that piece to trim the sales of his new book and hurt the paper's chief rival, the Washington Post. The Times was Tanya Harding, and Woodward was Nancy Kerrigan, taking out the legs of Bob's book at the perfect time. So who wrote the piece? Well, it didn't tell us anything, so it doesn't really matter. If the writer's claiming to secretly control Trump's harmful impulses, why write an op-ed piece for the Times? That seems like the worst thing you do to control his impulses. It's like shooting yourself in the foot halfway through a marathon. So whoever wrote this didn't think it through, and it could be absolutely anybody. Anybody. Mattis, sure. Pompeo, okay. Ivanka, definitely, probably. The Assistant Deputy Secretary of Commerce, why not? Doris in shipping, yeah. In fact, if anything is possible, why not some guy at the Times, the Jason Blair of the moment? Somebody acting out of concern to save America, just like the piece said. Crazier things have happened. The Times once endorsed Anthony Weiner. So if Trump wants to out the op-ed operative, all he's got to say is, hey, we looked into everyone here, so it must be somebody at the Times. Must be, could be, what's the difference? So yeah, it could be the undersecretary for ditches and pipes, or it could be Paul Krugman, except even the Times knows if they put Krugman's name on it, nobody'd read it. Never miss a chance, Juan, to hit Krugman. So, without further notice, Juan, I'm going to assume that the Times wrote it until they prove otherwise. Because the thing is, they should want to clear their name by proving to me that somebody else wrote it.
Really?
Yes.
You think you have that much authority? They're hungry for your approval.
They worry about me, Juan.
Yes, I think your affirmation. Every day I worry about it, but it's out of love, I must say, because I worry that you're going a little far into the Trump camp here.
No, you know what I'm trying to do.
But you know what? I mean, your point, I think you made this point. A lot of people have been critical of this anonymous writer.
Yeah.
Like yesterday on Fox News Sunday, the senator from Delaware, Coons, said, he thinks people shouldn't have done that. If you think you have some responsibility, if you really want to make a statement like that, stand up.
Yeah.
Say it with your name attached to it. Mm-hmm. But I will say I don't get your point about Woodward's book. It seems to me that he is highly credible. So whereas in the Omarosa case you could say, or even in the Michael Wolff case you could say, I don't know. But in this case, you'd say, this guy is a veteran journalist with one unbelievable track record, and what he says is this president is detached from reality.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that he realized that the New York Times did drop this.
I think that it actually helps him.
Does it?
Yes, because controversy helps drive books. So he's going to be doing a ton of interviews. I'm going to have one with him on Wednesday on the Daily Briefing Show.
Nice plug.
Thank you. I have learned from the masters.
Yes.
But I would say that one of the things that helps people if they have a book out, because there's so many books happening, is if there's a controversy that you are somewhat related to, you'll always be asked about it, and it keeps you in the top of the headlines.
Judge, what do you think? Who do you think wrote this?
The op-ed piece? I think the New York Times wrote it, but what do I know? No one knows. Here's the problem. The problem with this thing is if there's a two-track system, according to the letter, in the White House, where we're keeping everybody on track, otherwise it would be crazy town, which is a word that Woodward uses, I think, or one of them uses it, and they attribute it to Kelly, then if it's so crazy in the White House, why are people like hanging themselves from the chandeliers? I mean, why is everything happening that the president said was going to happen? I'm going to take care of the economy. I'm going to take care of unemployment. I'm going to get rid of ISIS. I'm going to do it. What's so crazy about that? The guy did everything he said he was going to do, and I should be worried the country's in bad hands? These people are crazy.
Have you noticed the high rate of people fleeing this White House?
Oh, come on. They did the same thing with Clinton in the beginning. It was chaos.
This is a record.
But you know what? Here's the thing. You've got a guy who was never in government. He was in business. He didn't even have a group that he could rely on that he had worked with for 20 years preparing for this job. So, of course, there are going to be a lot more people going in there. He's in business. What does he know?
You should talk to Jesse.
About what?
Jesse told me Trump is only hiring the best. Isn't that what you told me? Didn't you tell me that?
Yes.
Yeah, he's hiring the best.
Only the
I'm going
best.
to pick up with something that the judge said, because this explains a lot of the liars and the leakers.
And the liberals, which is the name of my book. Thank you, Jesse.
So the swamp doesn't like their business being questioned, especially by a businessman. So he comes in and he goes, why the hell are we still in Afghanistan after all these years?
Yeah.
Why the hell do we have all these troops in South Korea and they're ripping us off on trade? You know, why the hell is our immigration system rigged against us? And you have all these people around the swamp that have been in there for years and have set up all these institutions and the international order, and they take offense to that. They say, hey, we set this whole thing up. And Trump's all he's saying is, why are we trying to re-engineer the system to make a better deal for America?
And one of the things that they're criticizing is the fact that Trump says, why are we giving all these other countries money? And somebody had to come in and say, if we don't give money, we'll have World War III. What's wrong with that question?
There's nothing wrong with that, but when he says it and he asks these questions, he uses very blunt, colorful, and entertaining language.
Yeah.
So all these insiders and a lot of the guys who get fired, they go, oh my God, did you hear what he said? I mean, it's just so fresh. You got to leak it. You got to spill it. And then that gets out there and it gets spun.
Here's the bottom line. If you don't like it in there, then get out.
That's right.
Which is what's happening, and that's good.
Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Free market.
It's a free market. And again, about Woodward, if Woodward transcribed my behavior, I would be institutionalized. What he does is he's a good stenographer, but he doesn't tell the whole story. He just has the stuff, but he doesn't have context or tone. So 90% of my life off camera is babbling nonsense, right?
We can attest to that.
Yes.
Fact check, true.
Yes. So I'm glad he doesn't follow me around.
Well, do you know what strikes me, though, is like in the Woodward case, he says, well, here's the document that was taken off the president's desk. And people are saying, oh, not true. You say, no, here's the document. It's a fact.
What does it say about Cohen? It says Cohen's a thief.
Okay, okay.
You know?
So, in other words, Gary Cohn, Rob Porter, all these guys who left, they're all nuts, but the president's okay.
You know what? I ran an office. Somebody took a piece of paper off of my desk. I'd be looking for it.
Yes, they'd be missing a hand. All right. Serena Williams is being called a bully. I know you, Judge. Hang 'em high, as they say. She was called bully after claiming sexism cost her a championship this weekend. A video that's next.
I've seen other men call other umpires several things. And for me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark.
Tennis superstar Serena Williams blaming sexism and double standards after being penalized during her loss to Japan's Naomi Osaka. The controversy overshadowing Osaka's first Grand Slam title.
I just felt like everyone was sort of unhappy up there. And I know that it wasn't really like the ending wasn't how people wanted it to be. I just felt very emotional and I felt like I had to apologize.
Williams is receiving support after making those claims, but others, well, they're saying that her outburst went a bit too far.
I respect and admire Serena beyond measure. She is so powerful. She's an important voice. She's a ferocious competitor, but at her very worst, as she was on this night, she acts like a bully. And you make a career covering bullies. I mean, this is what you do for a living. You know what happens. You cannot talk to them. You cannot reason with them.
So we have a situation here in which the very popular Serena, I think the whole crowd was rooting for Serena, but then she begins berating the umpire, and the umpire responds apparently within the rules, but to take a game away, I don't know, but it was in the rules, and she wasn't winning the match anyway, let me just tell you. So, Greg, what do you make of this?
Well, I refuse to be manipulated into caring about tennis. It really is just an easier version of ping pong. Look, you know what the problem with this story is? So many stories these days come with that added veneer of ism. It's sexism, racism, classism. So she could be right, but for the wrong reason. There were 3 steps involved here, the coaching from the coach, and then her crushing her racket, and then the outburst, which cost a point, and then the game. But it's entirely possible that she's right about the punishment, but wrong for the reasons. And that's the problem with these stories that we're doing a lot of, is there's always this added sexism, racism, classism thing, and so you end up kind of in a weird place where people go into their separate camps, and she could be right or wrong. She could be both.
Yeah, but here's the bottom line with it. You have this young woman who beat Serena.
Yeah.
This is the dream of her lifetime. She's always idolized Serena, and she ends up apologizing. Serena was the one who was classless. Serena should have gotten up and congratulated this young woman. And to say it's because I'm black, it's because I'm a woman, you're a racist, I'm here fighting for women's rights. Really? I mean, she loses all of her credibility because you lost the game because you lost the game.
Well, she said it was sexist, not racist, just to be clear.
But Dana,
she said, I'm here as a black woman.
Well,
what does that say? She could have said, I'm here as a woman.
But I think that everybody now, the men players are saying, you know what, we've said a lot worse than just calling the ump a thief. And nobody took a game away from us.
Yeah. So I don't know enough about the sport in terms of the history of it.
You do play it, though.
I try.
I've seen you play.
I'm not very good, but
you're terrible.
I do.
Don't sell yourself short. You're awful.
I am short.
I think we should have a tennis match between Greg and Dana and see who wins.
No, it's ping pong. He
gets to stand on the ping pong table. He gets to play. So I don't know enough about it. I was thinking about the young woman who won, Osaka. She, for the rest of her life, she has a long career ahead of her. She's very young. She's obviously very good. This is not her first time, or it won't be her last time.
It's not her first rodeo.
At this tennis tournament, the U.S. Open. She'll have many more. And for the rest of her life, every interview she does, she'll be asked to relive this moment. And I do feel bad for her that she felt that she had to apologize. She said that she could feel that the crowd wanted Serena to win so much and that you have to apologize for winning. That seems to me sad.
That's what happens when you're bullied. I mean, I've seen it with crime victims. They almost feel like they have to apologize, a battered woman. Well, it was maybe my fault. I'm so sorry. And that bullying behavior is what brought out an apology from Osaka.
I can't believe what's happening. I'm going to have to disagree with everybody here. I agree with Serena Williams. She was robbed. This ref had no discretion here. The first thing, the coaching, everybody does that. You let that slide, okay? The second thing, you smash your racket, warning. Third thing, she said he's a thief. That's going to cost her a whole game. That's like teeing up Michael Jordan with 2 minutes left in Game 7 of the finals. Serena has earned the deference and the respect. She's won massive amounts of major championships. She has earned the right to lose her temper a little bit. Johnny McEnroe, all these other men have said so much worse. They've used profanity. They've intimidated people. She was obviously losing the match, and she lost her cool. She was going down. Yeah. But the referee robbed Serena of the chance to come back and ruined it for the crowd who wanted to see the athletes decide the match, not the ref.
But that's exactly the point. She was losing the match.
She was, and she was frustrated.
And she was frustrated, and she breaks a racket, and she starts yelling. Look, I don't know tennis well enough to know if the men are worse than the women or whatever. Probably, but here's the bottom line.
What?
You lost, and you were classless in your loss.
Wait.
You blamed
Hold on.
it.
I appreciate this discussion.
I think she tried to rescue it when they did the award ceremony and said, everybody, please stop booing.
You know, the other thing that Osaka could have done is said, I can't believe that me here, as an Asian woman, and being treated so badly in front of all these people. How dare you? Like that, it could have gone that way too. Instead, she said, I'm sorry that I won.
No, but she didn't do that. And I just wanted to say, I thought, in fact, Serena was very classy at the ceremony where she embraced, and when the kid was starting to cry, she put her arm around her. So I don't see that. But I agree with you. She was a competitor, and a competitor who had passion and anger. I just think that the men do get away with a little more. And just recently there was a situation out there where we went nuts over that. I think women are treated differently in the game than men.
Greg wants to know what match that was specifically.
I don't know. You can't read the mind of the umpire. That's the other thing, too. So you got to be careful when you're calling people names.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was trying to stick up for the integrity of tennis and wanted to call it, as close to the rule book as he could, but not at that time. Not at the finals of the U.S. Open.
All right. Hollywood millionaire Jim Carrey. He's telling Democrats to stop apologizing and start embracing socialism. You heard me right. Stay with us.
Doing what you're supposed to. Waking up too early. Maybe we could sleep. Make a banana.
Do you
More insanity coming from the liberal Hollywood elite. Dumb and Dumber actor and constant Trump attacker Jim Carrey calling on Democrats to validate socialism. Watch.
The Democrats need to get a plan to fight this slander of socialism. You're going to be living in Venezuela.
Well,
I don't see it yet.
We have to say yes to socialism, to the word and everything. We have to stop apologizing.
And Broadway star Carol Cook adds her name to the list of celebrities who find it funny to suggest the president should be assassinated.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him? Right? Will I be on an enemy's list? My God, I hope so.
Wow. I find it incredible. Where's John Wilkes Booth when you need him, huh, Greg? I mean, maybe she was looking for him.
I think it was right next to her in that clip.
She was friends. Yeah.
Hey, there was another thing that on the Mars show where Jim Carrey said that he wanted to break bread with Trump supporters.
Right.
And I'm thinking he's saying this is all because he has a new show. He has a dwindling fan base, and he realizes to reverse his decline, he has to reach out to the audience that he alienated and demonized. Remember, he wouldn't go to an event because Steve Bannon was there. He mocked a dead man. Charlton Heston just mocked him brutally. Yeah. He went after NRA gun owners. He went after the Trump family in these kind of grim, gruesome paintings. I mean, this is a guy who has used extreme political rhetoric to bolster an ego diminished by bad choices. So now he should prove it. If you want to break bread, you should go out and break bread instead of just breaking.
Maybe with Steve Bannon, the guy you didn't want to be with.
Yeah, but he ran away like a little baby.
But Dana, I always felt that, when you look at these actors, I mean, they come out and they think that they know exactly what we need or don't need. And I've never seen a group of people who live by other people's words. I mean, that's what actors do. They don't say what they think or believe. I mean, they get up and just mouth what they're being told to mouth.
I think Bill Maher was onto something, though. He said that the Democrats are facing a real problem. If socialism is going to be defined by Republicans saying what the Democrats believe it is, but socialism, that's the definition of it, is how it's being defined. If the Democrats have some other version, if they say socialism but really mean universal health care but with a little bit of private sector stuff, that's not happening. The Democrats are way, way behind on that. So he's on to something, and I can imagine that he was probably frustrated that he was going down a path with his panel to try to coach the Democrats along a little bit. Then he was like, Jim.
Shut up. Maher was looking at Jim Carrey like Pelosi was looking at Maxine. Like, he
That's
Can
it.
you shut up until after the midterm?
Exactly.
You know, Jesse, the thing that's incredible is when you look at Venezuela, and I did a piece on my show, Justice.
Nice plug.
Yeah, thank you. And about socialism. You know what they were saying in Venezuela?
Right
right after
Before
Jesse's
mine,
show.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, and women, because they couldn't get into hospitals to deliver, were having babies on the side of the road. I mean, do they not get what socialism is?
They don't, and he makes a better pet detective than an economist. And I really do. I don't like. I stole that from Gutfeld. I don't like when people from Canada come to America, get rich, and then tell us we need to change our system. Once they got all the cash, then they say they want to make it harder for everybody else. You know, I just don't think he's a very good actor anymore. I mean, he had his day in the sun. His 15 minutes are up. He's filthy rich, so he can say whatever he wants, and there are no consequences.
You know, Juan, one of the things when people say, like Johnny Depp was, when he said something like, when's the last time an actor killed a president? And then you've got Carol Cook who's then saying, you know, where's John Wilkes Booth when you need him? It almost, to me, seems like they're ignorant of history. John Wilkes Booth killed the president who was getting rid of slavery. I mean, do they not get it? Or is it just they hate the man so much they don't care who kills him?
I think she's talking, about an assassin, Judge. I don't think she...
No, I think she's comparing President Trump to Lincoln. That's how I'm going to look at it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
I think
that's the
last week that was Trump himself in a moment of hysteria.
After Hillary did it.
No, you know what is curious about me? I'm on line with Dana here. I think that, in fact, oftentimes Democrats are talking about something other than socialism, which I think is defined as state ownership of the means of production. And even in Canada, for all your criticism, Jesse, they don't have that. But what he was saying, Jim Carrey was saying, he never stood in line for medical care. And he thinks there are some people in this country that when they get sick, all of a sudden they're in economic collapse. And he says that's wrong. And I think most Americans agree. But they wouldn't call it socialism, which is what he did.
The rich don't have to stand in line in Canada. They go right to the front or they come to America.
No. That's what they do. They pay to get at the head of the line.
Well, you can pay to come to America and you can go to the best medical facilities in the world. That's not what we're talking. We're talking about people who end up in emergency rooms in this country, in this very city, because they have no medical care.
Juan, if you were going to get a lobotomy, where would you get it? In America or Canada?
I think I'd go over to your house if it was a lobotomy. Because I think at that point, there's no hope, right? A lobotomy, geez.
All right. One more thing is up next.
Nuts over that. I think women are treated differently in the game than men.
Greg wants to know what match that was specifically.
I don't know. You can't read the mind of the umpire. That's the other thing, too. So you got to be careful when you're calling people names.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was trying to stick up for the integrity of tennis and wanted to call it, you know, as close to the rule book as he could, but not at that time. Not at the finals of the U.S. Open.
All right. Hollywood millionaire Jim Carrey. He's telling Democrats to stop apologizing and start embracing socialism. You heard me right. Stay with us.
Doing what you're supposed to. Waking up too early. Maybe we could sleep. Make a banana.
Do you?
More insanity coming from the liberal Hollywood elite. Dumb and Dumber actor and constant Trump attacker Jim Carrey calling on Democrats to validate socialism. Watch.
The Democrats need to get a plan to fight this slander of socialism. You're going to be living in Venezuela.
Well,
I don't see it yet.
We have to say yes to socialism, to the word and everything. We have to stop apologizing.
I am.
And Broadway star Carol Cook adds her name to the list of celebrities who find it funny to suggest the president should be assassinated.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him? Right? Will I be on an enemy's list? My God, I hope so.
Wow. You know, I find it incredible. Where's John Wilkes Booth when you need him, huh, Greg? I mean, maybe she was looking for him.
I think it was right next to her.
She was friends. Yeah.
Hey, there was another thing that on the Mars show where Jim Carrey said that he wanted to break bread with Trump supporters.
Right.
And I'm thinking he's saying this is all because he has a new show. He has a dwindling fan base, and he realizes to reverse his decline, he has to reach out to the audience that he alienated and demonized. Remember, he wouldn't go to an event because Steve Bannon was there. He mocked a dead man, Charlton Heston, just mocked him brutally. Yeah. He went after NRA gun owners. He went after the Trump family in these kind of grim, gruesome paintings. I mean, this is a guy who has used extreme political rhetoric to bolster an ego diminished by bad choices. So now he should prove it. If you want to break bread, you should go out and break bread instead of just
maybe with Steve Bannon, the guy you didn't want to be with.
Yeah, but he ran away like a little baby.
But, Dana, I always felt that, when you look at these actors, I mean, they come out and they think that they know exactly what we need or don't need. And I've never seen a group of people who live by other people's words. I mean, that's what actors do. They don't say what they think or believe. I mean, they get up and just mouth what they're being told to mouth.
I think Bill Maher was onto something, though. He said that the Democrats are facing a real problem. If socialism is going to be defined by Republicans saying what the Democrats believe it is, but socialism, that's the definition of it, is how it's being defined. If the Democrats have some other version, like if they say socialism but really mean universal health care but with a little bit of private sector stuff, that's not happening. The Democrats are way, way behind on that. So he's on to something, and I can imagine that he was probably frustrated that he was going down a path with his panel to